The film opens in New York City, 2008. Frank was walking through the busy streets, on his way to rent an apartment as a surprise gift for his wife on their anniversary. But before he could cross to the other side, tragedy struck. A speeding bus rammed into him, killing him instantly. People rushed over in panic, trying to help, unaware that Frank's spirit had already drifted away from his body. At the hospital, Dr. Prashel was seen entering the office of Dr. Pinkis. Prashel came to book the panoramic X-ray machine for his appointment the next day. While there, he also mentioned that his wife had just given birth to a baby girl and invited Pinkis to their light celebration. Pinkis casually told him to begin the celebration, promising he'd join shortly. Moments later, Pinkis was seen secretly peeking at what they were up to before quietly walking down a hallway. Pinkis exited through a back door, entered another building, and took an elevator up to a room. Once there, he settled on a couch and took a few drops of a laxative solution. Minutes later, he was seen again at a health center, being admitted by a nurse whose irrelevant questions only made him more irritated. He was then taken to a ward for further checkup. The following morning, a nurse rolled him out in a wheelchair, but Pinkis soon got up, insisting on handling his own payment. As he stepped outside, he suddenly noticed a strange woman standing in front of him, a ghost. Startled, he turned around, only to see her following behind him. While walking down the street, he realized that more ghosts were noticing him, and as they moved from street to street, their numbers began to multiply. They all knew he could see them. Desperate to get rid of them, he cleverly tricked them into heading the wrong way and escaped. Later, he returned to the hospital and met with a nurse who took him into an office for a private discussion. Soon, a large doctor joined them, and Pinkis, still shaken, demanded to know what had happened to him. The nurse calmly explained that he had died, for 7 minutes, showing him a hospital logbook with his signature as proof. Walking down the street afterward, Pinkis passed by another ghost, Frank. The encounter made him cough uncontrollably. Moments later, the two were seen getting into the same cab, where Frank begged him to help his stranded widow, who was standing right in front of them. Soon after, they ended up in a restaurant where Pinkis ordered a sapphire martini. Their conversation turned heated until an old woman approached them, seeking their favor. Annoyed, Pinkis immediately left, with Frank following close behind. While walking down the street, Frank told him about his wife. She was about to marry a lawyer, and pleaded with Pinkis to come up with a way to stop the wedding. The next morning, Pinkis woke up and saw a group of people waiting outside his building. He instantly realized who had leaked his address. After getting ready, he stepped out with his bag. As he sneezed repeatedly, a nearby security guard tried to comfort him. Pinkis then walked out with Frank by his side, asking him to tell the ghosts following them to back off. Later, the two attended a global health seminar where the secretary discussed extensive CT scans used to detect orthopedic trauma and infections, even citing Tutankhamun as an example. After the meeting, Frank urged Pinkis to approach Gwen, the girl he had once crossed paths with. Pinkis walked up to her and began with an apology for stealing her car. Gwen forgave him immediately, and after exchanging names and pleasantries, he excused himself and left. As they continued walking later, Frank teased Pinkis about his awkwardness with women, asking if he had ever gone through a bad experience. Pinkis brushed off the earlier conversation and moved on. In the next scene, he's seen with the same woman he once met in the elevator, where they had discussed dental medication. During their talk, Pinkis invited her to meet again, setting the date for Thursday at sunset. Later that evening, he bought a new shirt to wear for the occasion and stood before the mirror, testing how it looked. When the day arrived, he met her at the art building, where she eagerly showed him various works of art. Together, they also participated in an experiment involving a preserved body from decades ago. In the middle of it, Gwen asked if he'd attend a program scheduled for the following Thursday. Pinkis declined, explaining that he wasn't comfortable being around crowds. Afterward, the two took a quiet walk before sitting together on a nearby bench. Suddenly, their peaceful moment was disrupted when several spirits appeared, hovering around Pinkis. Trying to stay composed, he turned his attention back to Gwen, just as she introduced her fiancé, Richard. Richard politely invited Pinkis over for dinner, and though hesitant, Pinkis accepted. That evening, both Frank and Pinkis attended the dinner. The group discussed dental procedures and oral care, but soon after, Richard excused himself to attend another engagement, leaving Gwen and Pinkis alone. They started chatting casually about her pet and how she had found it. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and they eventually went out to a restaurant, laughing and sharing stories over dinner. On their way back, Pinkis opened up about his past, about his wife, Sarah, who once left on a trip and never returned. She'd fallen in love with another man and married him in Portland. He spoke with quiet pain, and Gwen listened intently. Not long after, Pinkis and Frank were in the kitchen, discussing whether Gwen truly loved Richard. Pinkis began to lose hope, believing Gwen's affection for Richard mirrored the love she once had for Frank when he was alive. Later, Frank secretly appeared at a restaurant where Gwen and Richard were dining, silently watching them enjoy each other's company. Meanwhile, Pinkis was seen back at work, tending to a patient. Needing a restroom break, he stepped out to get the toilet key from the receptionist. On his way out, he spotted a few of the ghosts that had been following him, waiting at a distance. He stayed still until they turned away, then hurried back and returned the key. Soon after, he attended to another patient, who turned out to be Richard. Curious, he tried to learn what had happened between Richard and Gwen the previous night. Leaving the room, Pinkis ran into Dr. Prashel and asked for advice on how to extract information from someone hostile. Taking the advice, he found a way to get the truth out of Richard. Later, on the street, he met Frank again and broke the news. Gwen had dumped Richard the night before. Frank, completely puzzled, asked how Pinkis found out. That's when Pinkis admitted to using 700 milliliters of nitrous oxide. Sometime later, Pinkis met with Gwen and handed her a keychain, which she immediately adored. As they chatted, Pinkis mentioned something about Frank that struck a nerve, causing Gwen to get upset. Their disagreement escalated, and she walked off angrily. Frustrated, Pinkis blamed Frank for ruining things. He wandered away and sat alone on a bench, staying there for hours as snow began to fall heavily. Eventually, he returned to the dental office, where he found Dr. Prashel and confided in him about everything. Prashel gave him an advice to put others first, so listening to the advice, he started helping the ghosts one by one to finally be at peace. And as he finished helping them, he felt very much fulfilled within him. Later on, Pinkis saw Gwen again in a hall. He tried to explain that Frank still loved her, though she couldn't see him. Frank stood nearby, invisible, listening quietly. Moments later, as Pinkis and Gwen spoke outside, tragedy struck. A speeding truck hit Pinkis. His spirit instantly separated from his body, meeting Frank once more as bystanders gathered around his motionless form. A man rushed over and began performing CPR, while Gwen sobbed uncontrollably, surrounded by onlookers. Watching from beyond, Frank told Pinkis that Gwen now belonged to him. But in a twist of fate, Pinkis woke up the next day in a hospital bed, alive. He had been successfully revived. Without wasting time, he returned to work as usual. In the final scene, Gwen visits Pinkis at his office. He asks why she didn't go on her planned trip to Egypt. She smiles softly and says she felt she should stay, to be near him. The two confess their feelings for one another, sharing a heartfelt moment that finally brings peace to them both. And that's how the story concludes. Stay tuned for more gripping, emotionally charged recaps like this one. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories.